Yo, what's up, fam? Big love to all of y'all tuning in from around the world. If it's your first time here, welcome to the squad. Smash that like and hit subscribe to roll with us. Even the Allies are shocked by Trump's plan for Iran. While Iran's getting closer and closer to building a nuke, two countries are scheming behind the scenes. They both can't stand Iran and have already carried out some serious attacks on Iran's allies in the Middle East. Now they're teaming up to figure out how to shut down Iran's nuclear dreams. The US and Israel are getting ready to hit Iran hard, right as it's about to go nuclear. But here's the crazy part. The US isn't going to lead the attack. Israel's actually taking the wheel this time, even though President Donald Trump has been throwing out some serious warnings about going to war. On April 9th, Trump threw down a major warning to Iran: ditch the nukes or we'll bomb the whole place. And this ain't his first threat either. Back on March 30th, Trump dropped a similar bombshell in a phone interview with NBC. If Iran doesn't make a deal, they're getting bombed. And not just any bombing. He said it'll be like nothing they've ever seen.
The U.S. might slap secondary sanctions on Iran, not directly on Iranian stuff, but on any country that does business with them. Basically, you mess with Iran, you pay the price.
Iran probably didn't realize just how bad things were going to get. A week after those first threats, Trump laid it all out. There's going to be an airstrike like never before, and it's not just the US doing it. Israel's going to be in on it too. That means Iran could be stuck fighting an air war on two fronts, and they're totally not ready for that.
In April, Trump told reporters in the Oval Office that if it comes down to it, there will be military action. He made it clear Israel's going to be deeply involved, maybe even leading the charge. But then he kind of confused everyone by saying, "No one's directing us. We do what we want to do."
It sounded like Trump was saying Israel would take the lead in future airstrikes, but the US would still be in control of itself. Basically, they're working with Israel, not for them. Trump's message is loud and clear. If Iran doesn't back off its nuclear plans, the US is ready to bomb, and Israel's right there with them. That alliance just makes the threat even scarier. Maybe the US even realizes that Israel knows better which targets to hit. One thing's for sure. Trump's recent comments show U.S. Israel military ties are getting tighter. Not that they weren't already close. Since 1948, the U.S. has given Israel over $130 billion in aid, and a lot of Israel's military gear comes straight from America. They also train together all the time. Still, Trump's words hit different now. He's putting America's full support behind Israel at a time when Israel's taking heat for trying to wipe out Hamas, Iran's proxy in Gaza.
In early April, he said he was thrilled with how Trump was dealing with Iran's nuke program. According to him, the U.S. and Israel are totally on the same page. The Associated Press even reported that it was Netanyahu who talked Trump into ditching the old Iran nuclear deal back in 2018. Now Bibi's pushing for a deal like the one Libya's old dictator Muammar Gaddafi agreed to in 2003, where Libya gave up everything related to nukes. That's exactly what Netanyahu wants Iran to do now.
On April 7th, speaking to reporters at the White House, Netanyahu said,
"Look, we're united in the goal that Iran should never get nukes. If we can get that done diplomatically like we did with Libya, awesome. But one way or another, we have to make sure Iran doesn't end up with nuclear weapons."
Bottom line, Netanyahu's making it clear that if military strikes go down, it's to make damn sure Iran never gets the bomb.
So here's how the US and Israel got to this point. It all kicked off in mid-March, when Trump sent a message to Iran's leadership basically saying, "You've got 2 months to get your act together and sit down with us for nuclear talks."
Iran wasn't having it. They straight up said no to that deadline, said they weren't about to enter direct talks with the US because they don't trust America to keep its promises, and honestly, they've got receipts. They pointed to the deal they made with Obama's crew back in the day, the 2015 nuclear deal, which Trump later bailed on, leaving it hanging in the wind.
That deal wasn't just the US either. It had backing from major nuclear powers, Russia, France, the UK, and China. But even though it didn't completely block Iran from handling nuclear materials, it seriously limited their ability to enrich uranium. Like, it put some real tight restrictions in place. To make a bomb, you gotta enrich uranium to around 90% U-235. The 2015 deal capped Iran at low single-digit percentages, just enough to power civilian nuclear plants, but nowhere near enough to build a weapon. Anything more than 5%, straight up banned.
But Netanyahu wasn't feeling it. He didn't like that Iran got any relief from sanctions at all. Even though Iran couldn't make a nuke under the deal, just the fact that they were allowed to enrich uranium at all was a red flag for Israel. They saw it as a loophole Iran could exploit later. Trump agreed. He pulled the US out of the deal in 2018, calling it the worst deal ever. And just like that, the whole thing basically fell apart.
The UK and France didn't have the muscle to stop Iran from revving its nuclear program back up, and Russia and China, they were pretty chill about it, mostly because they're always down to push back against the US. Ever since, the US hasn't been able to seal a new deal. Even President Biden tried back in 2021. He went as far as holding indirect talks with Iran in Vienna, but nothing came of it. All talk, no results.
Then, in early April, Trump came in hot with another message. Iran still said no to direct negotiations, so Trump hit back with threats of airstrikes. And when Trump talks bombing, he means business. Ever since he started throwing out those threats, the US military presence in the Middle East has gone through the roof.
It started with the US sending the USS Harry S. Truman carrier to run airstrikes on Houthi fighters in Yemen, a group believed to be bankrolled and trained by Iran. They've been getting hammered with air raids since March 15th. Trump's trying to shut down one of Iran's main proxies in the Red Sea, a move that could pave the way for even bigger airstrikes directly on Iran.
Then the USS Harry S. Truman linked up with the USS Carl Vinson in the Red Sea, doubling down on US air and sea power in the region. Each of those carriers can carry up to 90 aircraft, so that's a whole lot of firepower pointed Iran's way. On top of that, the US deployed its stealthy B-2 Spirit bombers, the scary ones, to a secret base called Diego Garcia in the Indian Ocean. The UK leases it to the US, and it's been used as a launch pad for air raids since the war in Afghanistan.
Right now, there are at least 6 B-2 bombers stationed there, backed by an entire squad of mid-air refueling planes. Those tankers are key to keeping the bombers fueled while they fly in and out of Iran, assuming the US and Israel decide to actually pull the trigger. And this ain't even the full picture. According to the Jewish Chronicle, the Pentagon also moved 2 Patriot missile batteries from Asia to the Middle East. These babies are the pride and joy of America's air defense. Top-of-the-line protection in case any airstrikes get answered back. Iran's air defenses and Trump's heavy flex in the Middle East. So here's the deal. Iran's been trying to beef up its air defenses lately. We're talking drones, missiles, the whole package, all in response to the US airstrike campaign.
But Trump wasn't playing around. He ordered a high-altitude missile defense system to get shipped into the Middle East, the kind built to stop ballistic missiles, which are basically one of the only serious threats Iran's got that could hurt US and Israeli forces if they teamed up.
At the same time, a bunch of massive American cargo planes, like C-17S and C-5S, have been flying in and out of the region non-stop. One U.S. officer mentioned that most of the gear is getting dropped off at a tiny island in the Persian Gulf, right across from Iran. Basically, the U.S. is stacking supplies as close to Iran as possible, getting ready for anything. U.S. bases in Qatar and Djibouti are also getting loaded up with military shipments.
The whole thing's making it pretty clear. Trump's setting up a full-scale show of force, and he's making sure Iran knows it. With these bases in place, the U.S. could hammer most of Iran's western and southern coastlines, with airstrikes coming in from both directions, and if things pop off, Israel's likely to jump in with a missile strike of its own, maybe even hitting Iran from the west or north.
All of this is going down while the US and Israel keep turning up the heat on Iran's proxies. Over in Gaza and Lebanon, Israel's been putting in serious work against Hamas. Back in March, estimates said they took out around 20 Hamas fighters, which, no joke, is most of the group's active members.
And down in Yemen, the US is running bombing campaigns targeting Al-Qaeda, trying to chop off the head of the organization and make it totally useless. Around 70 people have been killed in those strikes, including some big-time field commanders and even one guy from Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps.
According to Long War Journal, all this pressure on Iran's allies is already working. A bunch of those groups have started to lay down their arms, including ones like Katibat Haballah and Al-Nawaib. Basically, Iran's getting weaker little by little while the US and Israel gear up for a possible hit. So here's the big question. What happens if the US and Israel actually go to war with Iran? If we're just talking numbers, Iran's got no shot. On paper, it's a mismatch. According to Global Firepower, which ranks 145 countries each year based on over 60 different factors, the U.S. has the most powerful military on Earth. Israel's sitting at number 15, and Iran's right behind them. But when the U.S. and Israel team up, game over.
Together, they've got around 1.5 million active troops and over 1 million in reserves. And both countries have serious air power. Sure, the US is way ahead, but even Israel alone has 611 aircraft. The US, over 13,000 planes. That's a sky full of death machines.
On the naval side, they've got 502 ships between them. The U.S. brings the heat with 11 aircraft carriers, 9 helicopter carriers, 70 subs, and 80 destroyers. Israel's got mostly patrol boats, but they still bring 5 subs and 7 corvettes to the fight.
Now, Iran's no pushover. They've got 610,000 total personnel, including 350,000 reserves. But compared to the U.S. Israel combined force, that's not even close. Iran's air force? Around 188 fighter jets. That's somewhat comparable to Israel, but when you factor in the U.S., it's a drop in the ocean.
Same with their Navy. They've got about 107 ships, including 7 frigates, 3 corvettes, and 25 submarines. So sure, they're stronger than Israel alone at sea. But this wouldn't be Iran versus Israel. It'd be Iran versus Israel and the United States.
Obviously, the US and Israel wouldn't go full throttle from day one. They'd probably keep it to strategic airstrikes and coordinated raids, but even that would hit hard. The US alone has 714 Patriot missiles in their stockpile, and Lockheed Martin and Raytheon are planning to ramp up to 1,000 missiles a year by 2027.
Each American aircraft carrier usually carries around 155 SM missiles, 135 Tomahawk cruise missiles, 60 RR missiles, and 420 guided bombs. Double that up with the USS Harry S. Truman and USS Carl Vinson, and you're looking at insane firepower. And that's before we even get into what else they might deploy.
That's it for now, folks. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to smash that like, hit subscribe, and turn on notifications. This is X News, bringing you the real, raw, and relevant. Catch you all in the next one. Stay safe.